The strong comments from Washington on Thursday come after deadly anti-China riots broke out in Vietnam in response to China towing an oil rig into a part of the South China Sea claimed by both Hanoi and Beijing. And this is raising some fundamental questions for us about China's long-term strategic intentions, the U.S. official told Reuters, speaking on condition of anonymity. He said Beijing's move appeared to fit a pattern of advancing territorial claims through coercion and intimidation. And China's activities are straining the U.S. China relationship because it raises questions about our ability to partner together in Asia or even bilaterally. And the Vietnamese government says one person was killed in the anti-China violence on Tuesday and Wednesday, but a doctor at a hospital near one area of rioting said he had seen 21 dead bodies and that at least 100 people were wounded. And an eyewitness to fighting between Chinese and Vietnamese workers in an industrial zone in the same area said she had seen at least 13 bodies. And there are no immediate reports on Friday of further violence. And Washington is in close contact with the Vietnamese government on how most effectively to manage Hanoi's standoff with Beijing, the U.S. official told Reuters, and the Philippines, one of Washington's closest allies in Asia, has said China is reclaiming land on a reef in the oil and gas-rich South China Sea that both countries claim and is building what appears to be an airstrip on it. It has offered the United States the use of an underdeveloped naval base on a nearby island to ensure U.S. warships can enter the vicinity. And Vice President Joe Biden and other top U.S. officials told visiting General Fang Fengyue, Chief of General Staff in China's army, that Beijing's behavior in the maritime disputes was dangerous and provocative and must stop, the official said. And the renewed tensions in the South China Sea underscore one of the biggest challenges in Asia facing President Barack Obama, who is under pressure by America's allies to accelerate a pivot of military assets to the region to counter China's rising influence. And in Washington on Thursday, Fang defended the deployment of the oil rig in the disputed South China Sea and blamed Hanoi, saying China cannot afford to lose an inch of territory. And the general also pointed the finger at Obama's strategic shift toward Asia, saying it had encouraged countries such as Vietnam, Japan and the Philippines to make trouble with Beijing. Vietnam and China are now grappling with one of the worst breakdowns in relations since the neighbors fought a brief border war in 1979. And the crisis has erupted after a week-long visit to Asia by President Barack Obama in late April, in which he pledged that Washington would live up to its obligation to defend its allies in the region. And wrong lessons, and the U.S. official dismissed Fang's accusation as a fundamental misreading of U.S. strategy and said China's assertiveness would only encourage Asian countries to seek greater U.S. involvement in regional diplomatic, economic and military affairs. Washington insists its Asia-Pacific re-engagement is not meant to contain China's rise but that Beijing must conduct itself according to international norms. And we are concerned that China has learned the wrong lessons from Russia and Ukraine and has decided that unilateral assertion is the way to advance China's interests, the official said. And Russia's annexation of Ukraine's Crimea Peninsula and perceptions of limited U.S. options to get Moscow to back down have heightened unease in parts of Asia over whether Beijing will be emboldened to use force to pursue its territorial claims in the East and South China Seas. And in Beijing, the official Xinhua news agency said China's foreign minister condemned Vietnam in an urgent phone call with the Southeast Asian country's deputy prime minister over the anti-Chinese protests. And Foreign Minister Wang Yi told Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Pham Binh Minh in the call on Thursday night that Vietnam bears unshakable responsibility for the violent attacks against Chinese companies and nationals, the report said. And authorities in Cambodia, which borders Vietnam, said about 1,000 Chinese had crossed into the country through the frontier since the violence began earlier in the week. And Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Dung has called on police and state and local authorities to restore order and ensure the safety of people and property in the affected areas. And Foreign Ministry spokesman Le Habin confirmed one death in the clashes and described media reports and accounts on social networking sites of higher casualties as groundless. and China's state news agency Xinhua reported that at least 2 Chinese nationals had died and more than 100 were hospitalized. And the worst violence appears to have taken place in an industrial zone in the central province of Hectarestan. Internalist movements are restricted in tightly controlled Vietnam, where the government maintains an iron grip on law and order, and it was not possible to get independent confirmation of the death toll. And the doctor at the Hectarestan hospital who had seen 21 dead bodies and the witness who saw the fighting in the industrial zone did not want to be identified by name. And a steel plant being built in the province by Formosa Plastics Group, Taiwan's biggest investor in Vietnam, was set on fire after fighting between Vietnamese and Chinese workers, the company said, prompting a demand for compensation from Taipei. And we are working with lawyers in Vietnam to assess the procedures and seeking claims for damages caused due to the protests, said a statement posted on the website of Taiwan's cabinet, which did not give estimates of the damage or how much compensation would be sought. And additional reporting by Nguyen Phuong Lin, Martin Petty and Michael Gold, writing by Roy Gopalakrishnan, editing by Paul Tate,